everybody. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Happy Saturday. Hope that you're having a good start to your weekend. And here we are once again being able to spend time together and be able to develop our data science skills. So really grateful to all of you for being here and for all the time that we get to spend with each other. I'm already seeing some enthusiasm in the chat. Thank you so much, Leo, for being so enthusiastic, getting us started off here. And you're right, Leo. I am going to do a quick double check here. Make sure all my chats are out. Make sure all my promos are out. So many things to always put together when I have these streams. But I think that everything looks good today. I've got my Twitch going, got my Kick going. I didn't get my Instagram going. Wow. Good thing I double checked myself here. So Instagram is now live. Every once in a while I try to come up with different ways to, test how I kick off the stream and how people join and things along those lines. So today I was actually testing a little bit with whether I start my stream with some action happening on the screen or not. Because I think when people log into a live stream, they usually like to see something happening, right? They don't like to have a wait screen. So I've been experimenting with that, and that's why I was a little bit late with my Instagram today, but so good to have the Instagram people now being able to join us. All right, coming back here. All right, looking at my chat, you guys are already saying hello. You guys already know what's going on. We're doing our global roll call. For those of you that don't know, we ask people to introduce themselves with their city, state, province. It lets us know where you're from, gives you a nice way to participate, keeps the chat inclusive, and it's also a good professional practice to get into. So it's something that I like to ask people to do in order to help build the professionalism within the chat. So really hope that all of you enjoy that from each other, because it's ultimately also how we treat each other, as part of the introduction and whatnot. And also, I do want to remind you that tomorrow we are going to have a continuation of our tutorial sessions on creating a data science project from the ground up. Really excited for tomorrow, because tomorrow we are going to start doing some work, right? We got a client contract in place. We did our agile planning. Now it's time for all of us to come together and say, okay, how are we going to deliver this? Right? I mean, we've made some promises. So now we got to start working on the delivery. So that's something that I'm looking forward to for tomorrow. So I hope you're looking forward to it too. Same time as today, 1500 GMT. We do tend to go a little bit longer. So, feel free to come for as long as you can, or maybe you join a little bit later. We've never done less than 2 hours. We've gone 3 hours. So feel free to come later. Feel free to come and go. Whatever the case may be, you're invited, and look forward to having you. There's some people who only come on Sundays. That's how much they like the Sunday sessions. So hope to see you guys there. All right, so you guys are already filling up my chat. So this is awesome. This is awesome. I'm also seeing a couple of new people, which is fantastic. Okay, so starting from the top, Leo says, "Let's go." Make sure the chats are on today. Leo is obviously very excited. Very excited, very enthusiastic, which I enjoy, right? Because enthusiasm's contagious, right? So I appreciate Leo's enthusiasm. Fatima, our good friend from Meekness, says, "Hey, sir. Fatima, shouldn't you be in school right now? Didn't you tell me you go to school on Saturdays?" I still can't believe that. That's not for me. I don't know about that, guys. So Fatima, hope you're doing well. Hope your studies are going well. Osama, also another good friend from Morocco, says, "Hello, sir. I hope everything is going well." Everything is going very good, Osama. Very good. I got up early. I went for a walk. I got my exercise in today. And sometimes it's not easy, guys. Sometimes it's not easy. I have to like force myself out the door. I keep on telling you guys that I have some health goals and athletic goals I want to meet in 2025. So today I had to have one of those conversations with myself where I was lying in bed And I was like, okay, come on, Dennis. Are we just talking about doing these health goals, or are you actually going to do it? You need to start getting out there, right? Um, so yeah, it was a challenge today, but I'm doing well, Osama, doing well. You know what motivates me to get out, guys, and you guys, maybe you guys can tell me if this helps you guys. But I was laying there in bed, and it's nice and warm, and I can hear outside it's still windy, and it's gonna be cold, and it's like, oh, I don't want to go exercise. But here's the thing, right? Like, I eat like my breakfast after I finish these streams. Like, I do my streams, I do a little bit of editing, and then I eat, right? Like, that's my first meal of the day. And I don't like to eat and then exercise, right? Because then you feel weird, right? So part of my motivation this morning was to say, well, if I go and exercise now, I can get it done. I can go to my stream, do my stream, and then I can eat right afterwards, right? Because otherwise, I can sleep in bed, but then I got to do my stream and then go exercise, and then I have to wait to eat. So I kind of motivate myself by saying, if I go now, I can eat a little sooner because I'll just finish the stream. You know, so I don't know if that helps you guys, but it helped me today. Because today was a struggle. It was a struggle, but it's a good day. Good day. Rex, our good friend from New York City, says, hi, everyone. Hope you are all having a great day. Hope you're having a good day, too, Rex. Rex, let us know what you're up to this weekend. You know, we like to hear people's plans. So, Rex, what are you doing this weekend? Let us know. Is it Harsh? Harsh, welcome. We asked people to introduce themselves. So, Harsh, let us know where you're from, okay? Boom Enterprise. Thank you for introducing yourself. Really appreciate that. Hi, sir. Kunle from Nigeria here. One, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Kunle. And two, I think it's your first time. I think it might be your first time here. If so, welcome. I'm glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. Leo says, yeah, tomorrow's going to be fun. Oh, geez, don't put that pressure on me, guys. What if it sucks? Don't put that pressure on me, man. But yeah, it definitely has potential to be fun. Sam, thank you, or Samab, excuse me. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm Samab. I am an AI ML team lead from Pakistan in the Punjab province. Very cool. All right, it's nice to have experienced professionals in the chat. So really cool to see that. Thank you so much. If you're able to, if you want to share a little bit more, you know, we'd love to hear. If you have any specialties that your team looks at, any tips and tricks that have worked for you recently, or any questions you might have, really appreciate you. Okay. Khalif, our good friend Khalif is back. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Missed yesterday's live session. That's unacceptable. You must attend every single live session. I attend every single live session. But glad to see that you're back, Khalif. Hope you're doing well. Hope that you know, you were out for good reasons, and everything is going good in your life. So thanks for stopping by. Khalif says, I was traveling, had bad network. Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen. Manoj says, good morning, Dennis and everyone. Manoj from Bangalore, India. Good morning to you too, Manoj. Hope you're doing well out there. Hope everything is going well for you. Fatima says, we can't wait for tomorrow. Jeez, the pressure, guys. The pressure. Ouch. But you know what? Tomorrow is all about teamwork. Tomorrow is all about teamwork, right? So I'm anticipating a lot of participation tomorrow. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay. We'll see what happens. Leo says excuses. Yeah, Khalif, come on. We're in a very mobile world. There's a good network everywhere. Fatima says it's good. Thanks for asking. All right, cool. Glad that's going well for you, Fatima. Sam, our good friend Sam from Bangkok is back. Hello, Dennis and everyone. Sam from Thailand. Hope you're doing well out there, Sam. How are things going out there? I'm sorry, Sam. I'm trying to remember. I think was it you were in the construction business? I think it was construction. I can't remember. But glad to see you here. Glad to see you back. Okay, so Rex is working for the NSA apparently. He's finishing up a top secret data visualization project. All right, Rex. Well, we don't want to get you into trouble, so I'm glad you're here. Osama, I see your question. Let me come back after finishing the introductions. It's a good question. So Boom says, been following your content on Instagram. First time joining your live. You definitely got the pronunciation right. Okay, okay, cool. Glad to hear that. Welcome. Yeah. This is not uncommon. I hear this a lot from people that see me on Instagram and they'll send me messages, or they just kind of like to attend and they just like to listen, and that's totally cool, right? I know some people also treat my lives as like a podcast, so they'll listen to it instead of watching the video, and that's pretty cool too. Welcome. Thank you for stepping up and participating, and and feel free to participate as much or as little as you'd like, but I'm glad to have you here. Yeah, Leo, thanks for playing host over there on YouTube. Rex, thank you for being a host over on Instagram. I got the greatest moderators, guys. When you see these guys, please give them a shout out. Leo and Rex, I think those are only mods I see right now. Really helped me out, so thanks for that. Leo says, oh boy, Rex playing James Bond on a Saturday morning already. Get a life, man. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, but we all learn at our pace, right? And I think Rex is learning at an amazing pace. So, shout out to Rex for all his investment in his data science journey. Sam says, I'm from oil and gas. Oh, I was so close with construction. Okay, oil and gas. That's right, Sam. So glad to see you back, and let us know how you're doing. Hopefully everything is good out there with you and in your professional life and all that. Leo says, you're so lucky for having us. Wow, I am lucky for having you guys. You guys make great moderators. So again, guys, give these guys a shout out if you see them, because they really do help me out. Really appreciate their support. Really appreciate all the support from all of you. Okay, so anybody else, if you're just joining us, let me know your city, state, province, country. Simple way to introduce yourself, professional way to introduce yourself. And I think it helps keep the chat professional too. All right. So Osama asked a question that I want to make sure I answer. Osama, because I think you asked this question before and we ran out of time, so apologies for that. All right, guys, so we're look at that. We're jumping in already. So everybody put your thinking caps on here. I have a question. Can we achieve 100% true positives, true negatives, and prevent overfitting simultaneously? That's a good question. That's a really good question. So in the chat, let's have some participation in the chat. There's no wrong answers. I'm not going to call on anyone. Let me just get like a vibe check, okay? Give me a 1 if you think that's possible. Give me a 0 if you don't think that's possible. All right? So give me a 1 if you think that it is possible to basically have a perfectly functioning algorithm that is not overfit. Or give me a 0 if you don't think that's possible. Okay? So give it to me in the chat. A 1 if you think it's possible, 0 if you don't think it's possible. And if you want to share like a scenario that you have in mind to provide some rationale, totally cool. Not required, but let me know. Okay, so Sam shares, had a busy week with midterms and assignments. All is well here. Thanks for asking. All right, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I like to ask about you guys because, you guys ask about me. I know you guys send me messages and well wishes, but, I want to return the favor. I want to hear about you guys. So sometimes that's why I ask, how things are going. So, appreciate when people share that. Michael, our good friend Michael from Nigeria. So good to see you, Michael. Good day, sir, and Dennis and everyone. Good day to you too, Michael. I like that greeting. Very, very fancy. So Michael, the current question in front of us and for everyone in the chat, We're looking at Osama's question. Is it possible to have a model with 100% true positive, true negatives, basically a perfect model, and not be overfit? So 1 if it's possible, 0 if it's not possible. So I'm seeing some votes already. If anybody wants to share their rationale, feel free to do that. Maybe share your rationale or an example or, something you worked on. What do you guys think? Okay, so we're getting a little bit of a balance there. We're getting some zeros, we're getting some ones. And again, I'm not calling on anybody, right? That's not fair. But, if somebody wants to provide an example or a rationale, I'm willing to, I'll provide mine. But, just to give you guys an opportunity, anybody want to provide a rationale for that? Okay, so I'm sorry, your name wasn't Sam, it was... Looking it up again. Samab. Okay, so Samab says depends on the problem. Okay. Osama says one example, FSD. Okay, and Osama, you voted 0, right? No, you voted 1. Well, Osama, are you saying that are there models where that's desired, or are there models where you think it's happening? Because I don't think that we could say that FSD has 100% true positives, true negatives, right? Clearly, there's been failures there. If you guys are interested in that, we had a great stream on that yesterday. So Osama, I guess I'm a little confused now. Are you saying that? Are you asking this question for scenarios where it's desired, or if it's even possible to begin with? Let me know. Awashes, welcome. I think it's your first time. Gang Talk from Sikkim, India? Or is Gang Talk the city? Sorry, I don't know if that's your name or the city. Sorry. But glad you're here. Thanks for chiming in. The question in front of us right now is it possible to have true positive, true negatives at 100% and not be overfit to data? So Samab says it depends on the problem, which I think is reasonable, right? Most answers in data science are very dependent or reflective of each problem, right? Okay, so Osama's talking about times where it's desired. Okay, we'll talk about that. Okay, guys. So last call for questions, or excuse me, for answers or rationales or votes, right? It's virtually possible, but now on real world problems. Okay. But not on real world problems. Okay, Leo. So Leo saying it's virtually possible, but not on real world problems. Okay. All right, so last call, and then we'll have some discussion on this. I'll give you guys my view here. Anybody else? Anybody else for votes or rationale they want to present? All right, so I like what both Osama and Leo have added as far as slight explanations. And I think Leo's kind of like creeping towards the answer, right? Or at least the answer that I'll give you, like my rationale. So my question to all of you guys is what does it mean to have an overfit model? Like what are you saying when that happens? In layman's terms, you're basically saying that the model has learned the training data and the validation data perfectly, right? So by itself, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? The positive aspect is you could say, well, it means that all my weights and measures are perfectly dialed in, right? Because remember, we've talked about how, I mean, what's a model? It's what are the features and what are the weights? You put those two together and you give an answer. That's a model, right? So what you're saying is that weights part of it is perfectly dialed in to your data. That's what you're really saying when you're overfit, right? Overfitting really only becomes a massive problem when you start hitting some errors, right? You never really kind of know if a model is truly overfit until it starts failing on you, right? Because in theory, you claimed 100% accuracy to your stakeholders or whomever, customers, whatever, and that didn't happen when it hit real world information, right? When it hit real world data. But what are you saying when you hit real world data? Well, you're basically saying data that it hasn't seen before, or data that kind of falls outside of the parameters of whatever the training data was like, right? So, I mean, that's kind of like when overfitting becomes a problem, right? An overfit model is a problem when it fails. So, in theory, it's a danger, right? Like, I'm sure all of you have had some classes that I've told you, oh, no, you must be wrong on that because your model's overfit. You achieved an accuracy number that we shouldn't want, right? But what if you're working on a problem or working on data that's range bound? That happens in the real world, right? Especially on business problems, right? Like, you can find plenty of problems that you'll work on that are range bound. In other words, virtually zero probability of having outliers once you deploy your model. So is that an overfit model? And I mean that from like a dangerous way. Like, is that a dangerous overfit model? Maybe not, right? Because if you're range bound to data anyways, and you're pretty dialed in on your weights and measures and your accuracy numbers and all that, is that bad? Right? So, like I said, Leo's kind of creeping towards the answer because, the danger comes when you are presenting it with data or a situation or something that it hasn't seen before, right? I mean, that's when overfitting is a problem, right? So I just think it depends, right? Now, coming back to Osama's point, are there situations where you want a lot, if not all, of those real world scenarios covered? Yeah, sure. FSD is a great example of that, right? FSD is if you're buying into this concept that I'm telling you about range bound data, right? Something like FSD is like not that, right? And then if you kind of look at the root cause, it's not just FSD alone. It's things like, image processing, right? Image processing is not range bound, right? There can be all types of images out there. But if you're working on numerical structured data, overfitting may not be so terrible. But if you're working on NLP, image processing, that's, that's a whole other level of danger, right? So it depends on the problems. It depends on the needs. So with Osama's concern of FSD reaching that represents one of the reasons why I think that FSD, You know, you might have heard me mention before, we have to accept, we as a humanity have to accept that there may be some problems that machine learning can't solve. See, that's the fundamental problem with a lot of the experts and the companies and, you know, the Elon Musks of the world. The fundamental assumption is that machine learning can solve everything. There's nothing we can't teach machine learning. And I think that's fundamentally flawed, because there may be so many of these, you know, what they call edge cases, right? Which I don't think is an accurate term for in this scenario. Is unlimited, right? You have an unlimited number of edge cases that can happen in something like FSD, in something like image processing, right? So, yeah, Osama, I hear you. It would be desirable in FSD to have that, but how could you possibly account for every single edge case that happens, right? Like, I'm not sure, it's making the rounds right now. It's gone like semi-viral, but right now there's a video of a Waymo that got stuck. Because you know how, like, you know, I think they're all over the world, but you know how, like, they have like those fire plugs, you know, those fire hydrants. It turns out that one of those fire hydrants, somebody ran over it, so the water was shooting up like a big waterfall in the middle of the street, basically. And the Waymo didn't know what to do because it hasn't been trained on a waterfall in the middle of the road, right? So things like that are going to happen, right? Things that we even can't possibly imagine, right? Are going to happen. So you really can't achieve that. You want to achieve that. But is it realistic? No. Is it going to be like a single thing? Like when you do that, there's no finish line, right? Like you're constantly having to retrain the algorithms, right? Like maintenance and learning and growth are all happening in parallel with algorithms like FSD, or at least they would have to. They're probably not doing that right now, but they would have to, right? So Osama, what do you think about that? It's possible that maybe that was your underlying point in asking that question, because how many of those scenarios could you possibly account for? And then what is an acceptable number? Like, if Tesla can prove that they've addressed 30% of outlier scenarios, is that a good number? I don't know. It's hard to say, right? So what do you guys think? Okay, so I want to get Fatima's comment in here. I believe it's possible, although it's generally considered challenging and rare. I once worked on a project involving geometric shapes where the model achieved 100% accuracy without overfitting. Okay. All right, cool. So I'm not trying to be cynical here or anything, but that's also range bound, right? How many geometric shapes are there? Right? I mean, there's going to be upper limits to that, right? So, yeah, I mean, I can see that type of scenario being achievable. But what do you think, Fatima? What about things that aren't range bound, right? An FSD is not range bound. Sarvesh, our good friend Sarvesh. Hello, Dennis. Good morning to you. Good morning to you too, Sarvesh. Hope you're doing well. I think it's Sam, right? I think you go by Sam. Hello, Dennis. Hello from Mexico. Again online. Glad to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. From the smallest state in Mexico, I think you told us. But yeah, hope you're doing well, my friend. Thanks for coming back. Good to see you. Okay, so Leo says, also for FSD, we're talking about a considerable amount of algorithms working together and grouped in classes. That gives an error margin for each of them and still guarantee decent final performance. Not necessarily one super algorithm performing well. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, this was kind of how we closed yesterday, you know, as far as how there's different algorithms that run a car, right? For those of you that don't know, an FSD is not a single algorithm, right? People think that, but it's actually not. It's a series of algorithms working in conjunction with each other. So yes, you're right about that, Leo, right? That adds an additional layer of complexity, right? But I think to keep in the spirit of Osama's question, I still want to focus just on a single layer of those algorithms, just one. Because, one, it's not a problem that's unique to FSD. There are other things out there, right? And then two, the problem, it's not FSD itself. The problem is not the confusion matrix even or data. The problem isn't even overfitting, right? And I say that because I think it's healthy for all of us, especially in business, to focus on the root cause, right? What is the root cause of the problem? And like I said, to me, the root cause is the error in the fundamental assumption that machine learning can solve anything. Right? I mean, if you go out there, you read on X, you read all the pro Tesla fanboys, you read all the stuff that's out there on machine learning, they're all making the fundamental assumption that machine learning there's nothing it can't do. Because even when you tell them that things are broken, oh yeah, but they'll solve that over time. It just needs more training data, right? They're like 100% bought in, right? They're completely blinded to the possibility of like, well, maybe there isn't an answer here, right? Like for some reason, we're willing to accept that we haven't solved cancer, and that we probably never will solve cancer, right? And I mean that as a science. But for some reason, as a science, data science, people believe that it can solve everything. And that may or may not be the case, right? So I hear you, Leo. There's a lot of layers, a lot of technical descriptions we can give, right, and assign to it. But the fundamental problem is that people just say, oh, well, of course it can do it. Like there's people who aren't really like open to saying, well, wait a minute, let's put a limit on this. So if you want to look it up, there's a famous saying, and I've used this with my business clients. There's a saying by a researcher named, I believe the name is Alan Perlis, Perliss, I believe is the last name. And his quote is, a year working in artificial intelligence should be enough to make you believe in God, right? Because, if you do look at these algorithms and machine learning hard enough, you realize that, like, it's great, but the human brain is doing so much more, right? Like, when you're driving, you're making like thousands and thousands of micro decisions that you don't even realize, right? But somehow we think that we can come up with a machine learning algorithm to solve all that. Maybe, maybe not, right? So Osama, I hope that discussion, maybe had you think about it in a different way. But, and just so that we're all clear on this, again, another underlying fundamental point I'm trying to make here is that overfitting is not always bad, right? It just means there's going to be a risk when you go to show it other data. But if it's other data, similar to the training data, then how risky is it? Right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And FSD is the opposite of right. FSD is new situations that can happen on, like, if you want to deploy it, nationwide, tons of cars have it. The new situations, outlier situations, are going to happen like multiple times a second, right? So Again, that's one of the reasons why I'm not so positive about FSD. I really think a lot of people out there are fooling themselves on the capabilities there, and again, in some cases, on the capabilities of machine learning overall. Right. All right. Anybody else have any comments or any other questions on it? Interesting topic, Osama. I'm really glad you asked that question. And I know that we tied it back to FSD because you mentioned that, and because I think some of us are still thinking about yesterday's discussion. But remember, people, I'm going to ask everybody in the chat. It's not just about cars. It's about what does it mean to have an overfit model, right? Like it's such like a negative word. Ooh, you're overfit. Ooh, right? You don't have to be spooky about these things. Just think about what they mean. Like what is the cause and effect there? And if I'm range bound, then, is that okay? Yeah, I'm okay with that. Right? What do you guys think? Or if anybody else has other questions, any other thoughts, I'm here for you guys, right? I'm here for you guys so that tomorrow we can have a bigger and longer session, right? Saturdays is when I like to kind of, not bring an agenda so that you guys can kind of help drive the conversation. And then that gets me ready for Sunday. Anmol, I think it's your first time. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. Anmol from Bharti, India, coming to USA for Masters this year, and a big fan. Oh, thanks for that. I appreciate that. I don't know if I think of myself as having fans. I just think, it's cool people to talk to, cool people like you. So hope you're doing well, and if you want to share, where you're going to study, you're welcome to do that. Or if you just want to sit back and listen, that's cool too. But thanks for being here, and I appreciate you being part of the community. So Manoj says, sir, what if outliers present in the data set are valid and true? Is it compulsory to remove it? No. I think people sometimes are a little too quick to remove outliers. I know that's a common exercise in a lot of assignments and things like that. But no, I don't think that there's any requirement to remove it. Yeah, I don't. I say keep them in there, right? Now you might have to do things like you have to scale your data, right? And we've seen that in some of the work we've done on Sundays, especially for neural networks. But no, Manoj, I don't. When I'm working with my teams, I don't advocate that they have to remove outliers. I'm totally okay with them in there, right? It's part of your range. It's part of what happens, right? So Fatima says, I agree with you. My main point was to suggest that achieving this is possible, but not in every situation. It really depends on the specific circumstances. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Very problem specific, and again, it's very problem specific on whether it's an issue or not, right? And also, I think that achieving it as the achievement being possible is possible, but easier with some types of data than others. Like I said, with image processing, it'd be really hard to achieve, right? But then you might have a limited number, or again, like a range of types of documents that you're going to see, right? Like if you have like a lot of like a lot of medical imaging, right? That's kind of sort of range bound, and like if you have some very specific images, right, of regions of the body or something else. So yeah. But appreciate the feedback, Fatima. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. Lulman, our good friend Lulman says, you probably must have talked about this before, but what do you think about being safer than a person driving through metrics like accidents per trips, just like flights? Maybe it might justify. Okay, so you're saying that even if FSD makes mistakes, it's still safer than a person driving. I have heard this argument before. I'm not sure if I've heard enough data for me to have an opinion on it. But, I mentioned this briefly yesterday. But the part that concerns me, it's more about like the public perception of it and the liability of it. I hate to keep on using this example because I know it can make some people sad and things like that, right? But give me a 1 in the chat or give me a 0 in the chat. Let me know if you're comfortable with what I'm about to say. Or give me a 0 if you're not comfortable with this. Okay? All right, but I'm about to tell you something. You tell me. You give me a 1 or a 0, okay? Mr. Lallman, I'm here, and I'm sorry to inform you that your grandmother was crossing the road, and she was hit by a car, and she died in the accident. And we have traced back the error to a math formula error. So therefore, our car company will not be accepting any liability for your accident. The insurance company won't be paying you for the accident because there was no insured driver at the wheel. In fact, this car had no steering wheel. So the car made a mistake and your grandmother died because of a math formula. So I'm sorry, but that's the only resolution that we can give you. Have a good day. So give me a 1 if you're comfortable with that. And give me a 0 if you're not comfortable with that. I mean, that's what I see happening, right? So give me a 1 if you're okay with somebody telling you that about your grandmother. Or give me a 0 if you're not comfortable with that. Yeah, I mean, Leo saying 0, Michael saying 0, of course. That sounds American, like apple pie. Okay, yeah. So you know what, guys? I wrote about this back in 2016. So back in 2016, around 2018 is when I wrote about this. If you go back to the archives in 2018, like the news archives, all of these companies out there, Ford, General Motors, I don't think Toyota, but a lot of these companies out there, they were making these announcements about how they were going to have self-driving cars, right? But here's the funny thing. A lot of them said, yeah, we're behind self-driving cars. It's 2018 and we're going to be deploying them in 2025. They were telling you 7 years ahead of time before they were going to deploy the cars. You know why that is? And by the way, at this point, Tesla already had FSD cars on the road, right? They didn't call them that, right? But they were on the road. Do you know why they were doing that? So maybe it's possible that there were other reasons. But in the US, there's something known as like judicial laws, right? The laws that are put into place by, your senators and your representatives. And then there's also what's known as case law, right? And case law is what happens when somebody wins a court case, the judge gives their rationale, and then that judge's rationale can be used by other court cases, right? So it kind of becomes like this quasi law because a judge, gave out a result, and then you as a future person can use that result as case law. Okay. So I wrote about this back in 2018. My guess is that all these auto companies, right, are basically waiting to see where the case law is going to fall on that, right? Because that conversation I just had with you is going to start happening more and more. So the car companies don't want to be liable. They want to know how these court cases are going to develop over time, and how that case law is being established. And then that way they can continue to commit to it, or they can pull back. Because why would they be announcing that 7 years ahead of time? It's not tech planning. That's not tech planning. That's legal planning, right? That's like legal liability planning. So think about that, right? Like, are you like, so like, yeah, okay, fine. You can come out and say, oh, well, look, it's much safer. But on a reputation basis, though, are we prepared to be a society that says we got killed by math formulas? Like, are we ready for that? Because see, the thing is, we see the mistakes now, right? Like yesterday, we talked about spam filtering. Gmail is like the biggest mail provider in the world, and you still get spam on Gmail, right? That's the algorithm failing. And in the words of Mr. Chow, but did you die? Right? Like you're not going to die because of a spam message, right? That what is it? That true negative is not going to kill you. Can a true negative in a self-driving car kill you? Yeah. And guess what? We've never had that. Like, we as a humanity have never had that. Right now, algorithmic failures are an inconvenience, right? Netflix shows you a video that doesn't make sense as a recommendation. It's an inconvenience, right? But now those failures are going to reach out and touch you, and they're going to break your arm, or they're going to put you in the hospital, or worse, right? So we've never had that. So, like, on a reputation basis, right? I think it was it Manoj I was asking? No, it was Lallman. So Lallman, like on a reputation basis, right? Or like on a humanity basis, you can show people like as many stats as you want, but like, I'm not going to go to the hospital because some stupid math formula failed, right? Forget that. Let me be in control. I'll drive the car instead, right? So that's what I think, you know. So give me some feedback, guys, because sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if you guys are dialing in and are like, oh man, we're gonna hear this crazy guy talk again about his stupid theories. But I mean, like, there's layers upon layers, guys, right? It's not just does my algorithm work, right? There's society, there's legal, there's liabilities. You know, there's comfort levels, right? Some people aren't comfortable learning FSD, right? So I don't know, guys. I don't know if you guys just tune in to hear my crazy crap. But you know, there's layers to it. There's layers to it. Sandikar? Is it Sandikar? Sandikar, I'm sorry, I can't remember if it's your first time here or not. Please remind me where you're from. I want to say it's not your first time. Can we have a model for consumers of insurance companies which can help them to get settlement done or help with the probability of it? You can try, but insurance companies are notoriously protective of their data, right? I mean, insurance companies are not your friends, right? So you can try. I just don't know how much good data is going to be out there. Yeah. I don't know. And also, I mean, you mentioned a settlement. So here's what I would anticipate. I would anticipate that the insurance companies would want to have a different model for settlements, whether it was FSD or not FSD, right? Like they're going to want to hold somebody else liable, because otherwise insurance companies now become the entire entity responsible for any failures in any algorithm, right? I don't think they're going to take that on without involving the car companies and who knows who else, right? Like who's to say that there couldn't be a future where they're going to say, well, if it's an FSD death, we're not going to pay out, but if it's a traditional driving death, we will pay out. Like who's to say there has to be a settlement at all, or even like an equal settlement? Maybe they'll just pay 10% of that, right? I mean, maybe they'll just pay you 10% and say, hey, go get the rest from Tesla. Like, I could see that happening, right? So what do you think? Like, yeah, because I mean, now if you're in an accident, or or if you want to get a settlement or sue somebody, now maybe they'll make you go after multiple companies, right? That's possible. Anmol says, sir, please tell about generative adversarial networks. How much time do you have? You can't explain that in just a couple minutes, Anmol. And also, don't take homework questions. You can't explain that in just a couple of minutes. I mean, if you have like a more specific question, I guess, but yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I find GAN super interesting. I love, putting little ones together and just kind of fooling around. But I mean, you can't just say, please give me the history of the world in the next 4 minutes. That's not possible. Okay, Lalman says, I agree with you. Osama, 100% agree. Leo says, yeah. But Osama, Lalman, what's interesting is I'm giving you my own US-centric perspective, right? In the US, we tend to drive big cars. We tend to drive a lot, right? Public transportation is not nearly as popular here as it is in other countries. So I know both of you are from different countries, not in the US, right? So if you guys want to share your views too on how other countries see it, I'd be curious, right? I also, building upon yesterday's conversation, I mean, are you willing to take the training that was done here on US roads with US infrastructure, and then take that car and move it to another country with different infrastructure and say, oh, the car is going to operate just fine? I mean, that's not good, right? Or maybe you guys can speak to how insurance and accidents are handled in other countries. Like I know in other countries, if there is an accident, the settlements or things like that can be a little bit more person to person, right? A little bit more, like one-on-one, the two people or the parties work it out. Well, how can you work it out if there's one person who was driving, the other one was FSD? Why can't the FSD person say, hey, I wasn't touching the wheel, I don't know what happened, right? And now that the other person doesn't have an insurance company, doesn't have anybody else that they can go get relief from, right? That's not a great scenario either, right? So what do you guys think? Maybe you guys can help me give a little bit less of a US perspective. Homework questions. I should go back to school while Dennis is streaming. When I first started this channel, like I'm talking like the first week, 2 weeks, I was bombarded with homework questions on Instagram, and I had to come up with a video specifically for that. So yeah, guys, one, don't be lazy, right? If you're lazy and can't do your own homework, you're not a data scientist. Stop wasting your time. And two, you know, you guys know how much I value this profession, right? Like, I love being a data scientist. I want this profession to grow. Like, like I'm trying to help the next generation here. I'm an old guy, right? So, like, why would I help you cheat? Like, hello? Like, you're asking like the wrong person, dummy. Like, I'm the last person that's gonna help you like find a shortcut to data science. I mean, like, that's not me. I'm not gonna do that. Go ask somebody on Fiverr. They'll solve it for you for $4 or whatever they charge on there. But I'm not. Like, you're asking the wrong person. Like, why would I ask you to shortcut from becoming a professional in like the world's greatest industry? But yeah, so I had to do a whole video on that because the first 2 weeks were not fun with all the homework questions that people were sending on Instagram. But yeah, guys. I mean, homework is intended to enrich yourself and improve yourself. It's not supposed to be easy, right? But yeah. But nowadays, I don't know how they're going to prevent some of the stuff, right? Because I'm sure you guys have all seen where you can show, the latest version. I think the ChatGPT 4s and higher, right? You can show an image of a math problem, and it'll solve it for you. I mean, that's crazy, right? Like, I don't know how you have defenses against that. Like, I'm trying to think about in my in one of my graduate classes, my probability course. I can't remember exactly what it was. Because remember, I went to school a while back, right? But it was something like the problem would flash on the screen. You had to write it down, like physically write it down, solve it, and then I think you could either fax it or you could take a picture and mail in the picture, and it had to be within 15 minutes. Like, there was a time limit on it too. So there was a time limit for you to see the formula, and then you had to solve it by hand, and then you had to mail it, like ship it in, right? Like, like I think you could take a picture, or you could send a fax or something like that. But now it's like, how do you do that? Like, I don't know how you do that. Animal. I love that you're here. I love that it's your first time. I love that you're participating, but no homework questions, buddy. If this is like a Kaggle problem, Animal, I encourage you to visit our Discord. On Discord, we do have a channel that, in fact, is being hosted by Leo, where you can talk about data science competitions. So maybe you'll get some help there. But again, we really don't do homework questions. And also, I mean, social media items, I think that's one of the classic Kaggle competitions, right? So, you could probably do some research there too. Sundakar says absolutely true. Sundakar, I'm sorry, I don't know which portion you were referring to. If you don't mind providing more detail, I'd appreciate it. Leo obviously is very amused by the homework questions. Animal, I love the participation, my friend. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, just don't help with homework. Ayush, we ask people to introduce themselves, okay? Let us know where you're from. I think it's your first time participating, but let us know your city, state, province, country, all that good stuff. But look, I can appreciate that everybody wants to learn data science, right? So that's what Sundays are for. On Sundays, I do a longer tutorial. Feel free to come tomorrow, same time as this stream, 1500 GMT. We're continuing our project on creating a data science project from the ground up. So we started by establishing a contract with our client. Last week, we did agile planning, and today we're ready to move on to the next steps. I'm not going to say what those are because it's part of the opening quiz tomorrow. But going to have a lot of participation tomorrow. We might even do some code. We might even use our new employee, ChatGPT. Right? We all have a new employee. We're going to use that, and we're going to learn. We're going to keep on building. Right? Sundays I like to do them as a series. So tomorrow is part 3 of the series, and we're gonna see where we end up, right? So with that, I'd like to thank all of you. Great discussion. Thank you so much for setting the agenda. Osama, thank you so much for kicking us off with that question. I think you asked a really important question. And if you want to keep the discussion going, feel free to join our Discord. We're almost at 400 members, so join, participate, ask questions. And yeah, just really grateful for the time we get to spend together, guys. So I'll see you again tomorrow for the tutorial. But until then, please take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll see you next time.